Modern soils are often tired and depleted, but this isn't a new problem. For thousands of years, gardeners and farmers faced the same challenge: how to keep soil fertile when crops keep pulling nutrients out. They didn't have synthetic fertilizers or chemical boosters, yet their land stayed productive for centuries. The methods they relied on still work today, and understanding them gives us practical tools to strengthen our gardens without depending on short-lived fixes. These ancient soil secrets are not myths. They are proven systems that built civilizations. One of the oldest practices across nearly every culture was the continuous return of organic matter. Farmers in China, for example, maintained soil fertility for thousands of years by composting crop residues, manures, and even household wastes. The principle was simple: nutrients removed by harvest must be replaced. When organic matter is added back into the soil, it feeds microbial populations, improves soil structure, and increases its ability to retain water. This isn't just about nitrogen or phosphorus. It's about maintaining a living, resilient soil system. Experienced gardeners today replicate this with compost, but the lesson from history is that it must be consistent. Fertility was preserved not by occasional additions but by an ongoing cycle of return. In the Amazon basin, indigenous people developed terra preta, or dark earth, a soil that remains fertile even after hundreds of years. Its creation relied on the controlled addition of biochar, combined with food scraps, animal bones, and organic waste. Biochar provides a stable carbon structure that holds nutrients, supports microbial life, and prevents leaching in heavy rains. Modern soil science has confirmed what the ancients discovered through practice. Incorporating charred material creates a long-lasting fertility base. For gardeners today, this can be as simple as producing small batches of biochar from pruned branches or wood scraps, charging it with compost or manure, and incorporating it into beds. Soil exhaustion was a constant threat in societies that relied heavily on staple crops. To counter this, rotations and green manures were widely practiced. Medieval European farmers rotated cereals with legumes, allowing nitrogen-fixing plants to restore fertility. In India, green manures such as sesbania and sun hemp were grown specifically to be turned into the soil, replenishing organic matter between crops. Leguminous plants work through symbiotic bacteria in their roots that capture atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into plant-available forms. Historical practice aligns with what science now confirms. Crop rotation and green manuring are not optional extras, but fundamental to sustaining fertility over time. In modern gardens, planting clover, fenugreek, or vetch as seasonal cover crops achieves the same effect. Mulching was another cornerstone practice. After harvests, residues like straw, leaves, or grasses were laid down over the soil surface. This protected against erosion, conserved moisture, moderated temperature, and slowly decomposed into new organic matter. Japanese rice farmers spread rice straw across paddies, African farmers used maize stalks, and Native American communities spread forest leaves and grasses over cultivated plots. Each material provided a protective barrier while feeding the soil beneath. The principle has not changed. Modern gardeners can use grass clippings, shredded leaves, or composted bark. Mulching remains one of the simplest yet most effective ways to keep soil alive. Animals were always part of the fertility cycle in ancient systems. Roman writers documented the value of different manures, noting that poultry droppings were strong and fast-acting, while cattle manure was slower but excellent for bulk and soil conditioning. Egyptians benefited from the nutrient-rich Nile floods, essentially a natural manuring system on a vast scale. The common thread was integration. Crops fed animals, animals produced manure, and that manure returned to the soil. This closed nutrient cycle prevented long-term depletion. For the modern gardener, access to manures, whether from chickens, rabbits, goats, or cattle, remains one of the most reliable fertility tools, provided they are well-aged or composted before application. Soil fertility was also preserved through careful water control. Ancient Persian qanats, Roman aqueducts, and Nabatean cisterns show just how vital water was to soil health. Fertility is not only about nutrients but also about microbial function, which really depends on steady moisture. In garden practice, this means, preventing both drought stress and waterlogging. Historical terraces, mulches, and water harvesting structures were all designed to stabilize soil conditions so microbes and plants could thrive. Today, the same principle applies whether through drip irrigation, rainwater harvesting, or just simple mulching. Fertility collapses in extremes but thrives under balance. When looking across cultures, several themes repeat with striking consistency. Organic matter must be returned continuously. Diversity of crops, especially legumes, is essential. Soil must be protected from the elements. Animals complete the fertility cycle, and water must be managed as carefully as nutrients. These were not isolated tricks, but integrated systems. Ancient soils remained fertile because they were treated as living, regenerating bodies. Every practice served both the short-term crop and the long-term capacity of the land. For today's gardeners, these lessons translate directly. Building fertility isn't about quick solutions but about systems that keep soil alive over years. Composting, mulching, growing cover crops, incorporating biochar, and cycling manures are proven strategies that align perfectly with both ancient wisdom and modern soil science. The critical takeaway is that fertility is built, not bought. Bags of fertilizer may give a temporary boost, but the enduring richness of soil comes only from practices that mirror the cycles of nature. That's what ancient gardeners understood and what modern gardeners can reclaim. The soils that sustained ancient civilizations were not accidents. They were carefully managed through practices that built fertility instead of draining it. Organic returns, mulches, biochar, rotations, manures, and water management formed the backbone of systems that worked for centuries. For gardeners today, these are not relics of history but practical tools waiting to be used. By applying these methods, soil becomes more than a growing medium. It becomes a thriving ecosystem capable of feeding plants year after year without decline. If this guide gave you clear insights into how history's gardeners kept their soils fertile, make sure to subscribe to Soil and Plant Doctor. Share this with fellow gardeners who are ready to move beyond quick fixes and into the proven practices that keep soil thriving for the long term. Together we can bring ancient soil wisdom back to life in our gardens.